What's the time?
It's time for Maths with Mr. Thomas.
That's right, we are on Chapter 9, Lesson number 3. This is the second lesson for multiplying out double brackets. And we looked at the basic examples in the previous lesson, and now we're just looking at some harder examples. Ooh, yeah, I can't wait! So, examples 1, 2, and 3 were in the previous lesson, so we're now starting at example 4. Multiply out these brackets and simplify. So, first of all, we have x plus 6 bracket x squared plus 1. Oh, I remember what you use for these. You use rainbows. You do indeed, yes. When I'm multiplying out double brackets, I always think about rainbows. You just draw a wee rainbow going from the first term in the first bracket to the first term in the second. Then from that first term in the first bracket to the next term in the second. So, if you multiply them together, you would do the x times the x squared. X times x squared is, well, it's really x times x, so that's x cubed. Then you would have the x times the 1, which is plus x. After you've done that, what do you then do? Good, you move on to the 6, and then you do 6 times by the x squared. And then you do the 6 times by the 1. So 6 times x squared is, good, it's plus 6x squared. And then plus 6 times plus 1 is positive 6. After that, have a look and see if you can simplify your answer. Can you simplify that? No, because there's no other x cubed, so it just stays as 1x cubed. Then go down the power, so do x cubed, x squared, x number. So x squared, you've got the 6x squared. Then with the x's, there's no other x's to add or subtract. And number-wise, you've just got the 6, so it would just stay as that. You could leave it as a line above. That's absolutely fine, as long as you simplify your answer, which in this case you can't. But I always prefer writing it as x to the highest power, and then decrease the powers all the way down to no x. Next one for B, we've got x squared take away 7 bracket x squared plus 5. I think about rainbows! Go for it then. So x squared times x squared. Remember, x squared is x times x. X squared here is also x times x. So really you've got x times x times x times x. So really you've got x times x times x times x, which is x to the power of 4. X squared times by the plus 5. Positive times positive, so it's going to be positive. And x squared times 5 is just 5x squared. Negative 7 times x squared is just take away 7x squared. And negative 7 times positive 5. A negative and a positive gives you a negative. And 7 fives are 35. Can you simplify that one? Yes, you can. How do you know you can, Kieran? Because x to the power of 4, there's no other x to the power of 4, so it stays as that. And then with the x squared, you got 5x squared, take away 7x squared. So 5 take away 7 is negative 2, so you have negative 2x squared. Well done, Kieran. And number-wise, you got the negative 35 at the end. Brilliant, well done. That would be it multiplied out and simplified. With C, 3 take away x squared, bracket x take away 9. Once again, think about the rainbows. 3 times by x gives you, good, that's going to be 3x. 3 times by negative 9. Positive times a negative gives you a negative. And 3 times 9 is 27. Negative x squared times by x is going to be negative x times x times x. So it's negative x cubed. And negative x squared times by negative 9. 2 negatives make a positive. And x squared times 9 is just 9x squared. Can that one be simplified? No, it can't. You're right, it can't, but I'd probably be writing it so the highest power here is x cubed. So write down negative x cubed, then write down the x squared, then write down the x's, and then write down the number that's on its own. And finally for D, x plus y cubed, bracket x minus y cubed. Once again, drawing the wee rainbows, so x times by x, then the x times by negative y cubed, then the y cubed times by the x, and then y cubed times the negative y cubed. So the x times x, first of all, was x squared. X times negative y cubed is going to be negative xy cubed. Y cubed times by x is xy cubed. Probably just write it in alphabetical order. So if you write down y cubed x, that's also fine, but probably put it alphabetically, as I said. So the x and then the y cubed. And y cubed times by negative y cubed. You've got a positive and a negative, so it's going to be negative. And y cubed is y times y times y. This y cubed is also y times y times y. So really you've got y times y times y times y times y times y. So because you've got the 6 y's multiplied together, it's just y to the power of 6. After that, x squareds. Are there any other x squareds on their own? No, there's not, so it stays as x squared. You've got take away xy cubed and then plus xy cubed. Because you're taking it away and adding it, they just cancel out. Or you can imagine it as xy cubed and then take away xy cubed. They just disappear. And you're left with the negative y to the power of 6. Woo! That's your answer. Example 5, multiply with the brackets and simplify. Oh look, there's 3 terms in that bracket. There is indeed. What do you do there? I don't know. You use the exact same thing, just use your rainbows. So start with the x and multiply by the x squared. Then take the x and multiply by the x. And then take the x and multiply by the 5. So take that first term in the first bracket and multiply by everything in the second bracket. Oh, so you would have x times x squared is x cubed. X times x is plus x squared, and x times 5 is plus 5x. It is indeed, yeah. And then what you do is you take the 2 and you multiply that by the x squared, then you do the 2 times the x, and then the 2 times the 5. So the 2 times the x squared is 2x squared, the 2 times the x is plus 2x, and the 2 times the 5 is 10. After that, simplify it. Start with the highest power. The highest power is x cubed. It's an x to the power of 3. Any other x to the power of 3s? No, it would just stay as that. X squared, you've got 1x squared add 2x squared. 1 add 2 is 3, so it's 3x squared. X's, you've got 5x add 2x. 5x add 2x is 7x. And number-wise, you've got the 10. There's no other numbers just on their own, so it would stay as plus 10. Woo! For b, x take away 3, multiplied by x squared add 4x take away 7. Once again, start with the first term, and you're doing the x times by the x squared, then the x times by the 4x, then the x times by the negative 7. So x times x squared is x cubed, x times plus 4x is plus 4x squared, x times negative 7 is negative 7x. And then once you've done that, you now take the negative 3 and you times that by everything. Is that right? It is. Well done, Steph. That is exactly what you do. So negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times the 4x. Negative times positive is negative. And the 3 times 4 is 12, so it's negative 12x. Because you've got the x in there. And negative 3 times negative 7. 2 negatives make a positive. So you'd have plus 21. Well done, yeah, you're right, Mark. That is right. X cubed, any other x cubed? No, so it stays as x cubed. X squared, you got 4x squared, take away 3x squared. 4 take 3 is 1, so it's 1x squared. X's, you've got negative 7x, take away 12x. Negative 7, take away 12. You're going further down into the negatives. You're going down to negative 19x. And number-wise, you got plus 21. There's no other numbers on their own. They're all x terms, so it stays as plus 21. Woo! Let's move on and look at C. For this one here, once again, you've got an x plus 2 and again 3 terms in this bracket. So, start off the exact same way, just drawing the wee rainbows. So you've got x times by x squared, then the x times by the negative 5, and then the x times the negative 2x. So, doing that, x times x squared is x cubed, x times negative 5 is negative 5x, and x times negative 2x, positive, negative, so it's going to be negative, and x times 2x, number-wise is a 2, and x times x is x squared. Once you've done that, now you take the 2 and you do 2 times x squared, 2 times negative 5, and 2 times negative 2x. Well done, yeah, William, that is right. So 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, yes, well done. And 2 times negative 2x, 2 times 2 is 4, and because you've got the negative, it's negative 4x. Whoa! Gather your like terms. X cubed is the highest power, so a number of x cubed is just that 1x cubed. X squared, you got to take away 2x squared, add 2x squared. Well, really, they will cancel out. 2x squared, take away 2x squared, or negative 2x squared, add 2x squared gives you 0. So these ones will cancel. X's, you've got a negative 5x, take away 4x. Negative 5, take away 4. You're going further down into the negatives. So you'd have negative 9x. And the negative 10 just stays as negative 10. Whoa! Who wants to do D? I do. Then let's do D. 8 take away x squared, bracket x squared, add x take away 6. Once again, start it the same way. So do the 8 times by the x squared, then the 8 times by the x, and the 8 times the negative 6. Just draw in these terribly drawn rainbows. 8 times by x squared is 8x squared. 8 times x is plus 8x. 8 times negative 6. That's a negative. It is good. And 8 times 6, 48. Well done. After that, yeah, you take the negative x squared and times by x squared. Then the negative x squared times by x. And then the negative x squared times negative 6. Who wants to help me with that? Go on then, Aubrey. What would you have? You'd have negative x squared times x squared is negative x to the power of 4. Well done. Good. Negative x squared times x. Negative x cubed. Well done, Aubrey. Yes, you're doing well. And negative x squared times by negative 6. Negative times a negative is a positive. And x squared times 6 is just 6x squared. I was going to say that. Then well done, Aubrey. Start with the highest power. Highest power is x to the power of 4. The number of x to the power of 4s we've got is just that negative 1. There's no other x to the power of 4s. X cubed. There's only this x cubed, so it says take away x cubed. X squared. 8x squared add 6x squared. Just the 8 add the 6. That's going to give you plus 14x squared. X's, you've got plus 8x. And number-wise, you've got the negative 48. So that would be your answer. Woo! Next one, example 6. Multiply with the brackets and simplify. Oh, Mr. Thomas, say because you've got x add 2 all cubed, does that mean you've got x add 2 times x add 2 times x add 2? Yes, it does. Well done, Jeffrey. What do you do next? I don't know. Anybody want to help him out?
Yes, me. I think what you do is you would just take the x add 2 at the start and leave it as x add 2.
Okay, so let's do that. And then what?
And then use the rainbows thing with these two. So do rainbows with this, multiply the x add 2 times the x add 2, but leave the x add 2 at the start. So you do the x times the x, then the x times the 2, then the 2 times the x, then the 2 times the 2. Hoo, 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 hoo.
Okay, so if you do that, you'd have x times x, which gives you x squared. X times that plus 2 is plus 2x. The 2 times this x is plus 2x. And the 2 times the 2 is 4. Yeah. What would you do after that? Would you simplify? You would indeed, yes. So you've got the x had 2. That just stays as it is just now. And then with this bit, simplify it. So x squared, that's all you've got. 2x add 2x is plus 4x. And the plus 4 just stays as it is. So what we've done is we've done this bracket times this bracket. And we've left this one as it is just now. But now what do? Yeah, now we do what we just did in the last example. You do the x times the x squared, the x times the 4x, and the x times the 4. Then the 2 times the x squared, 2 times the 4x, and the 2 times the 4. Just use your rainbows and multiply the first term in the first bracket by everything in the second, and then the second term by everything here. So x times x squared gives you x cubed, x times the 4x is plus 4x squared, x times the 4 is plus 4x, 2 times the x squared is plus 2x squared, 2 times the 4x is plus 8x, 2 times the 4 is plus 8. Woo! After that, simplify it. So x cubed is just x cubed. X squared, you've got plus 4x squared add 2x squared. So you've got 6x squared. X's, you've got 4x add 8x, which is 12x. And number-wise, you've got that plus 8. So that would just stay as it is. And that will be your answer. Woo! Let's try this next one. Example 6b, negative x take away 1 cubed. Ooh. So we've got the negative, and the x take away 1 cubed means x take away 1 times x take away 1 times x take away 1. Note that it's not negative x take 1 times negative x take 1 times the negative x take 1. The negative is not in brackets, and we're not cubing it. We would be working out the x take away 1 cubed and then taking the negative of that. So the negative just stays here at the start, and our x take away 1 cubed is just that. To do that, just leave the x and the x take 1. Leave them as they are and do the rainbows thing for this. Multiply the x take away 1 times by the x take away 1. So do the x times the x times negative 1, then the negative 1 times x, and the negative 1 times negative 1. So the negative stays, the x take away 1 stays, and then x times x is x squared. Good, try it with me. X times negative 1 is negative x. Good. Negative 1 times x is still negative x. You're doing well. And negative 1 times negative 1, good, it's plus 1. Well done. After that, simplify this bit here. You've got a negative x take away x. What's negative 1x take away 1x?
Negative 2x.
It is, good. So that would just change to a negative 2x. Everything else stays as it is. After that, the negative, you could just leave the negative just now and not do anything with that, and then just use the rainbows thing with this. Do the x times the x squared, x times 2x, and x times 1. then negative 1 times x squared, negative 1 times negative 2x, and negative 1 times 1. To do that, what I'm going to do is going to take the negative and then I'm going to put in big square brackets to show I'm still to deal with the negative. I'm just keeping that outside the brackets just now. And then do the x times the x squared, do the x times the negative 2x, the x times the 1, and then the negative 1 times x squared, the negative 1 times the negative 2x, and then the negative 1 times by positive 1, and finish with that big square bracket.
Could you simplify that?
You can indeed, yeah. So again, leave the negative and leave the square brackets and simplify that. So x cubed you've got, it's just x cubed. X squared, you've got negative 2x squared, take away x squared, is negative 3x squared. X's, you've got an x and then a plus 2x, which is plus 3x. And number-wise, you've got the negative 1. Woo! From there, what do you do now? Brian, help us out.
Do you deal with a negative? Do you just multiply everything by negative 1? Just imagine a 1 there in front of that bracket.
You're right, Brian. Yeah, that's all you do. So you do negative 1 times this, negative 1 times this, negative 1 times that, and negative 1 times that. So multiply everything by negative 1. So you'd have the negative 1 x cubed. The negative 1 times the negative 3 gives you plus 3 x squared. Negative 1 times the 3x, negative 1 times 3 is negative 3x. And the negative 1 times negative 1 is plus 1. So that is your answer. Woo! With C, 3 bracket 2x take away 5 cubed. Once again, similar to the negative 1 in the last lesson, woo, massive pen, we would have this cubed, and we're also timesing by 3. If you think about BIDMAS or BODMAS, then you would do the cubed bit. You would do your index. You would do the 2 take away 5 to the power of 3 before you multiply by 3. Think about BIDMAS slash BODMAS. So really what that means is, it means it's 3 times by the 2x take away 5 times 2x take 5 times 2x take away 5. And whenever you see that, just start off the exact same way. So leave the 3 and leave the 2x take away 5 and just do the rainbows, multiply this bracket by this one. So 2x times 2x, 2x times negative 5, negative 5 times 2x, and negative 5 times negative 5. So you'd have the 3 bracket 2x take away 5. And if you multiply these brackets together, 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. Negative 5 times 2x, negative 10x. And negative 5 times negative 5, good, you'd have plus 25. Now you've got the 3 times by the 2x take away 5 times this bracket. But notice with this bracket, you've got a negative 10x. Take away 10x. You can always simplify that. So what's negative 10x? Take away 10x.
Is that negative 20x?
It is, good, yeah. So just rewrite everything, but put a negative 20x in there. After that, you could always do the 3 times the 2x and 3 times the 5. Keep it in brackets and then multiply everything out with the 4x squared, takes 20x, add 25. That works absolutely fine. All I'm doing though is just leaving the 3 just now and then multiplying out the other brackets. So I'm doing the 2x times the 4x squared, the 2x times the negative 20x, and the 2x times the 25. Then I'm doing the negative 5 times the 4x squared, negative 5 times negative 20x, and negative 5 times the 25. So working your way along with that, 2x times 4x squared, good, it's 8x cubed. 2x times the negative 20x, positive times negative is a negative, and 2 times 20 is 40, and you've got x times x, so it's x squared. 2x times 25, well, 2 25s are 50, so you'd have plus 50x. Negative 5 times 4x squared is negative 20x squared. Negative 5 times negative 20x, 2 negatives make a positive, and 5 20s are 100, so you'd have 100x. And negative 5 times 25 is negative 125. After that, again, I'm just leaving the 3 as it is, and I'm just simplifying this part here, because with the x cubed, there's no other x cubed, so it would just stay as 8x cubed. But with the x squared, you've got negative 40x squared, take away 20x squared. So that becomes take away 60x squared. With the x's, 50x, add 100x is 150x. And number-wise, you've only got the minus 125, so it stays as take away 125. And what do you think you do to finish off?
Times everything by 3.
You do indeed, yeah. You do 3 times the 8x cubed, 3 times the negative 60x squared, 3 times 150x, and 3 times the negative 125. If you do that, you'd have 24x cubed, take away 180x squared. Remember, you times everything by 3. So 3 times 150 gives you 450x. And 3 times that negative 125 is take away 375. Woo! Remember, these questions are a bit more complicated than the ones in the last lesson or at the start of this video. So if you can do these, you are an absolute genius. Yeah, you are. Well done. Example 7, multiply out these brackets and simplify. So we've got our 2x add 3 times by the x take away 7, take away x plus 2 squared. What would you do first? Would you do the multiply and would you times that? Would you do the subtract or would you do the squared?
Probably the squared.
Yeah, because if you think about BIDMAS or BODMAS, then you would have to do the squared before you do the multiply or the subtract. So you can imagine that as 2x plus 3 times by the x take away 7 take away. And x plus 2 squared, what does that mean? Yeah, it means x add 2 times x add 2. From there now, really what we've got is we've got this multiply, we've got this subtract, and we've also got this multiply. So with the multiplies, we could just do them together. We could multiply out these brackets, this one times this one, and you could multiply out this bracket by this one. So if you do that, use the rainbows, 2x times by the x, 2x times negative 7, 3 times x, and 3 times negative 7. If you multiply that out, that would give you 2x squared, take away 14x, plus 3x, take away 21. Then you've got take away, and I'm going to keep these brackets here. You need them because you're going to be taking away every single term. So keep these big square brackets and show that whatever you end up with, you are taking it away. But if you multiply x add 2 times x add 2, x times x gives you x squared, x times the 2 is plus 2x, 2 times the x is plus 2x, and 2 times 2 is obviously 4. So you'd have x squared, add 2x, add 2x, add 4, and then the big square brackets. After that, I'd probably simplify some bits. Here, I've got to take away 14x, add 3x, and in these brackets, I've got 2x, add 2x. So 2x squared, keeping that as it is. Take away 14x, add 3x is take away 11x, because negative 14 add 3 is negative 11. If you're at negative 14, you go up 3, you're going closer towards 0 in the positive numbers. Negative 21 stays as it is. Take away, and again, keep these big square brackets, show that you're taking everything away. So we'd be taking away the x squared. 2x add 2x is 4x, so we're taking away the 4x as well, and also that plus 4. So we've just simplified these bits that I've underlined. Now what you want to do is the 2x squared stays as 2x squared. Take away 11x stays as take away 11x, and take away 21 stays as take away 21. But with this here, because you're taking everything away there, you could always imagine, if you like, a negative 1 in front of the brackets and do negative 1 times everything. If you do that, you'd have negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared, negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x, and negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Or you could always think you're taking away x squared, so then take away x squared, you're taking away the 4x, that's right, take away 4x, and you're taking away the 4. So it becomes take away 4. After you've done that, what do you do next?
Do simplify.
You do indeed, yeah. So just look at how many x squared you've got. 2x squared take away 1x squared is 1x squared. With the x's, take away 11x, take away 4x is take away 15x. And number-wise, negative 21 take away 4.
Is that negative 25?
It is, yeah, because you're going further down into the negatives.
Woo! Can we do another one like that?
Sure. So B, you've got 8 take away 3 bracket x take away 1 bracket x take away 3. Take away x bracket 7 take away x. Bracket 2 plus x. Again, really complicated example. If you can do this, you're an absolute genius. You will manage any of the ones in past papers or any that come up in the exam. This is me making it slightly harder for you to challenge you. But for this, you've got the 8 takeaway. So I would leave that as 8 takeaway because you've got all this multiplying brackets. And you know multiply comes before the subtract. So you'd be having to multiply these terms together. And you'd also be having to multiply these terms together first before you do this takeaway or this takeaway. So for that, to do the 3 times the x take away 1 times the x take away 3, I'm just leaving the 3 just as it is. And what I'm doing is I'm multiplying out the brackets first of all. So I'm doing the x times the x and the x times the negative 3. Then the negative 1 times x and negative 1 times negative 3. So I'm leaving the 3 times as it is. Let's write that as 3 bracket. And x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And negative 1 times negative 3 is plus 3. Good. Then I've got takeaway. So its takeaway is just staying as it is. And also because there's 3 terms here, I'm just going to leave that x as it is as well. I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm just going to leave it as x. But then what I'm going to do is multiply these brackets. 7 take away x times 2 plus x. So to do that, I would just use the whole rainbows thing again. So 7 times the 2, and then 7 times the x. and then negative x times 2, and then negative x times x. So x staying as it is, 7 times by 2 is 14. 7 times by x is plus 7x. Negative x times 2 is negative 2x. And negative x times positive x, negative times positive is a negative, so you'd have negative x squared. Good. Once you've done that, you probably want to simplify what's in this bracket and in this bracket, because some of the terms do simplify. So we've still got 8 take away 3, still got the x squared, but negative 3x take away x is negative 4x. And we've still got the add 3, still got the takeaway, still got the x, still got the 14. 7x take away 2x though is just 5x, so it becomes plus 5x. And then the negative x squared will stay as it is. From there, we've got this negative, so we've got the takeaway, and again this takeaway. But we've also got to multiply out the brackets. We've got the 3 times by this bracket, and the negative x times this bracket, and probably include the negative with the 3, so do negative 3 times everything here. And the negative x, and multiply that by everything here. So if you do that, the 8 will just stay as it is. Negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times negative 4x, 2 negatives make it positive, and that gives you 12x. Negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. Then negative x times 14 is negative 14x. Negative x times plus 5x is negative 5x squared. And negative x times negative x squared, 2 negatives make it positive, and x times x squared is x cubed. You're right, well done, Martin. After that, simplify it, so highest power is an x cubed, so x cubed. How many x squareds? Well, negative 3x squared take away 5x squared gives you negative 8x squared. X's, you've got a 12x take away 14x, which is negative 2x. And number-wise, 8 take away 9 is negative 1. That would be your answer. Woo! Did you manage that? Well done, you. Example 8, let's include some fractions. So, multiply the brackets and simplify. We've got x plus 1 over x, all squared. First of all, what does it mean if you've got a bracket squared?
It means you do the bracket times the bracket. So you'd have x plus 1 over x times by x plus 1 over x.
You do, yeah, well done. After that,
you just use the rainbows. So you would do the x times the x.
You do. What's x times x?
X squared.
Good. After that, you would do the x times by the 1 over x. What you want to picture for that is you've got an x times by 1 over x. In order to do that, well, you've got a fraction times by x. So x you could just put as over 1. To multiply fractions, you would do the x times the 1, which is x. And then you would do the 1 times the x. So multiplying fractions, multiply numerators together, and then denominators together. So 1 times x is also x. So get x divided by x. What's x divided by x? 1. It is indeed, yeah. If you've got something divided by itself, like 7 over 7, 6 over 6, 19 over 19, 5 divided by 5, it's just 1. Once you've done that, you've got that 1 over x times by x, which is the same thing again. You've got the 1 over x times by x. Write that as x over 1, multiply the numerators and the denominators, you end up with x over x, and x over x is still just 1. And after that, you've got 1 over x times by 1 over x. So 1 over x, just write it like that, times by 1 over x. In order to multiply fractions again, numerators, 1 times 1, 1. And x times x, x squared. Good, so you just end up with 1 over x squared. Gather your like terms for your x squared. You've got an x squared here. You do also have an x squared here, but remember, in order to add that, you would have to move the x squared up to the top, and that would be x to the power of negative 2. So you cannot put the x squared and the x to the power of negative 2 together. So you just leave the x squared as it is. You would also leave the 1 over x squared as it is. And what would you have in between them?
2.
Why 2?
Because it's 1 and 1.
Yeah, dead obvious. That's your answer.
Woo!
With B, x plus 1/3 bracket x plus 1/2. So, how do you do this? Rainbows! You do indeed, yeah. So x times x, and then x times the half. Then the third times x, and then a third times 1/2. So, x times x is x squared. Good. X times a half is just a half times x. So you just write down a half x. A third times x, well, a third times x is just a third x. So you just write it without the times sign. A third times by a half, what's that going to be? Yeah, good. A few of you getting the answer already, but it's a third times by 1/2. Multiply the numerators together. Multiply denominators together. So 1 times 1, 1. And then 3 times 2, 6. Brilliant. Well done. After that, together your like terms. So with the x squared, you've only got that x squared. There's no other x squared. X's, you've got half of x, add a third of x. So to work out how many x's you've got, you'd work out half, add a third. And to do that, you probably just go to the side and work out what half add a third is. Remember, to add fractions together, you would want to get the same denominator. So you want to think about your 2 times table and the 3 times table. Smallest number in them both is 6. And to go from the 2 to 6, you would have to times by 3. So you times the top by 3 as well. 1 times 3. To go from 3 to 6, you have to times by 2. So you do the 1 times the 2 as well. So it's 3 sixths add 2 sixths. How many sixths have you got then? 5. Good, so you got 5 sixths. Remember, that was how many x's you've got, so it's plus 5 sixths x. And plus the sixths would just stay as it is. So that would be your answer. Last one, C. X plus 4 over x, bracket x, take away 1 over x. You use the rainbows. You do indeed, yes. Thank you, Peter. So x times x, then x times negative 1 over x, then 4 over x times x, and then 4 over x times negative 1 over x. So x times x to begin with, that's x squared. That's dead easy. X times negative 1 over x, well, positive times a negative is a negative. And once again, you've got an x times by 1 over x. So you can imagine that x is x over 1, and you're multiplying it by the 1 over x. So x times 1 is x. X times 1 again is also x. You've got x over x. Just like a couple of examples ago, x divided by x is 1. Good. Which will change in the next line, clearly. After that, you've got the 4 over x times by x. 4 over x times by x is, well, that's 4 over x times by the x. So again, imagine x is x over 1. 4 times x is 4x. X times 1 is x. You've got 4x over x. And then you've got the 4 over x times by negative 1 over x. You'd have the negative, and 4 over x times 1 over x. Again, multiply the numerators together and then denominators. So 4 times 1 is just 4. X times x is x squared. Do a bit of simplifying. X over x is just 1. Again, x divided by x is 1, or they would cancel out, leaving you just with a plus 4. And negative 4 over x squared would just stay as 4 over x squared with the negative. After that, x squared just stays as x squared. There's no other x squared. Remember, you would have to move that up to the top, and that would become x to the power of negative 2, which is not the same as your x squared. So you would just leave it as that with the x squared on the bottom. Do not put it together with the x squared. But you've got in the middle, you've got the negative 1 and the plus 4. Negative 1 plus 4 is obviously plus 3. So you get the plus 3. And that will be your answer. That's it for multiplying out double brackets. Hopefully that made sense. If you can do the questions from the first lesson, you're probably absolutely fine. If you can do these ones, you'll be definitely fine for the exam. But you may wish to try some of the past paper questions, which you'll probably find easier than this lesson, in the next video. Give it a shot, and if you want more practice, there's the Zeta Maths book, which is pretty good. Quite a few exercises in there from page 27 to 36. Loads and loads of questions with the answers. Or the TJ National 5 book as well has quite a few. Best of luck. Hopefully that made sense. See ya. Woo! Bye.